Hi, perhaps you recognize me. It's your favorite president.
We will decide who comes to this country and the circumstances in which they come.
I mean,
I know you want to ban our national flags, but we're going to wave you goodbye.
What does confrontation mean? It means you fight for what you believe.
Enough was enough! And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother!
It is not merely our privilege to be strong, it is our duty to be strong.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Commanding the Narrative. Thank you to everyone who is watching this live on YouTube, Rumble, or Facebook. If you are watching live, you can contribute to the chat today. It's going to be a lively debate about the upcoming US election. So plenty to talk about, plenty to hear your comments and what you think, maybe some predictions of what could happen or what might happen afterwards once we get the result. Also, I'll put the StreamYard link in the chat at some point today for you to call in. We want to hear you call in and let us know what you think. I have Mr. Paul Vallejo next to me. Hello, Paul.
How are you, Stephen?
I'm very well, thank you. We're meant to have Chris, but Chris has slept in, so we can't have Chris. And sorry for starting late as well, because there's a lot going on behind.
There is a lot going on in the world. You stop. I want to get off. Whoa.
Yeah, we can't go into it all, unfortunately, but maybe one day I'll write a book or something like that. But Paul, how you been?
Yeah, good. There's so much going on in the world, in the country, in the home. It's busy time, and it's not boring. I'll give it that. Can't keep up.
That's right. And you've got your American tie on.
Yes,
you're very patriotic today.
My patriotic tie, the American Team Police tie. If you've ever seen that movie, there's a clip that I don't necessarily recommend you playing, but I sent it to you in case you wanted a laugh and to get demonetized.
Okay, maybe we'll get to that at the end.
Yeah,
like but I've called this episode today a moment in history.
It is.
Do you think I'm overreacting?
Not in the least. I mean, there's a number of aspects of this that make it a very significant election. I do think that. I mean. It's amazing. If you want stability in a democracy, you want to give people a sense that their vote counts, that there is, the way that we resolve differences is a big aspect of Western civilization, democracy and free speech. If I disagree with you, I don't get to hit you. If I disagree with you politically, I get my vote and it should be counted. And we're setting up a situation that's a real powder keg on both sides. Free speech is under attack. And also, from a lot of people's point of view, democracy is under attack. So it is a real, it's a really important time and a very unusual election. The other thing is people live in parallel universes.
Yeah.
When I talk to friends who watch mainstream media, they actually they look at clips that say something out of context, and they actually believe that that's actually the reality of the situation. They're told that when Donald Trump speaks at Madison Square Garden because there was a Nazi rally in the 30s, that actually has some relation to what happened, despite the fact that Cyndi Lauper is playing next week. She's going to throw up a Sig Heil because that 80 years ago that there was a convention there. It's ridiculous. But that's the world we live in.
Well, let's talk about this because this is Tim Walz. This is the Democrat presidential candidate speaking.
Donald Trump has descended into madness over the last few weeks. And I think some of you don't miss on this. Go do your Google on this. Donald Trump's got this big rally going at Madison Square Garden. There's a direct parallel to a big rally that happened in the mid-1930s at Madison Square Garden. And don't think that he doesn't know for 1 second exactly what they're doing there. Donald Trump.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So the Grateful Dead, the New York Knicks, the degree to which they try so hard, it's such a stretch. And I have no idea why more people can't see through that. If you're watching mainstream media, all the things that he's been accused of that out of context could make sense, but in context make no sense. Like the fine people. Have you seen the Scott Adams hoax list? the fine people hoax, the drinking bleach hoax, the koi pond hoax.
Oh.
You know, all like you know what the fine people hoax is.
No.
Oh, right. This is so back in 2017 when there was a riot in Charlottesville.
Yeah.
And there was basically, you know, and I went to school in Charlottesville, Virginia. That's where University of Virginia is.
Yeah.
And so they had a rally to save the statue of Robert E. Lee.
Mm-hmm.
So in the South, it was a very strange thing. You know, when I was very young, I went to visit my aunt and uncle in Arkansas.
Yeah.
And on my way to Arkansas, there was a little kid, you know, I was like 8 years old. And he came up to me. He's like, I want to talk to you about the War of Northern Aggression. And what my grandpappy said, that's what the War of Northern Aggression is what they call the Civil War in the States.
Yep.
And my grandpappy, you know, talked to me about that all the time. I'm like, kid, I have no idea what you're talking about. You want to play ball? You know, this North-South divide did exist when I first worked at NASA, when I visited my aunt and uncle. So I was going someplace with this. Where was I going with this?
The something people.
Oh, the fine people hoax. Yeah. So Robert E. Lee is venerated in Virginia because, you know, the North, Lincoln asked him to lead the armies of the Union armies, and he said, "I can't fight against my state."
And he went with the Confederates.
He went with Confederates because he couldn't fight against.
And he won like 13 battles in a row.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the North, even though they had vast industrial power, couldn't find a good general. And Robert E. Lee, despite overwhelming odds in a lot of logistics, he won through great tactics and strategy. So
was it
Gettysburg?
Who was the other general that came? Grant.
Ulysses Grant was one of the first people who and Sherman, Grant and Sherman.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was later in the war that they turned the tide. But in the beginning, the South had all the good generals.
This is completely off topic, but did you, when you were in school in the US, do you get taught the Civil War?
Yeah.
And is it different from if you live in the North and if you live in the South, you get taught different things?
Yeah, I imagine that there's definitely truth to that. I mean, all my primary schooling was done in New York. And then when I went to university, there was some time in St. Louis and then a fair bit of time in Virginia.
Yeah.
And Virginia had a very Southern flavor to it. When I went to Texas and I was looking at an apartment and I went in to see, you know, this guy, it was a big flag that said "The South will rise again." And I was like, "Damn!" I had no idea that. Like, wasn't that like 100 years ago? But
Texas is weird because it was its own country at one point.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're talking about that could happen again, maybe.
That's part of the thing about if democracy dies because the people don't believe that the result was legitimate, you might actually have states secede. California is talking about a significant percentage of them think that they should secede if Trump gets elected, and then if there's what's perceived to be a stolen election from the part of Texas, they might want out too. So if the last thing you want to do is throw doubt on the integrity and transparency of the election. But you have things like the Dominion voting machines going glitchy. Yeah. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
And I mean, what you want is more than anything, transparency.
It's a little bit more dangerous if we are talking about civil war. It's a little bit more dangerous this time because in the past it was the North versus South, whereas this time it seems to be the left versus the right, and they're everywhere. It doesn't matter what state you're in. So you could be fighting against your neighbor potentially.
Well, I mean, that happened during the Civil War too. A lot of people don't realize that, the Civil War, more Americans died in the Civil War than any other
conflict.
Yeah. And that was when the percentage of people in the population was far fewer. So percentage wise.
And a lot of civilians as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the only, in World War I and World War II, the devastation was in Europe. And people went home to an intact country during the Civil War. I mean, Sherman burned Atlanta to the ground.
Yeah.
That was percentage of capita civilian deaths. There was no other war that really touched the United States as much as that one.
Yeah. Okay. Let's bring up this map. So this is, I guess, what we're looking at with the upcoming election. And it's not about the popular vote. It's about the Electoral College. Now, as you can see there, with all the states across the US, each state has a number underneath it, and that's the number of delegates that is contributed to the Electoral College. Now, as you can see, California is the biggest one with 54, but that's because it has the
highest population.
That's correct. Texas is 40. New York is 28, I think. My eyes can't, the computer's a bit far away, but I'm pretty sure it's 28. As you can see, a lot of the country is red. This is based on current polling, but a lot of those states in the middle have very low populations and thus low delegates to the Electoral College. And this is a CNN website, so they're predicting Kamala's in the lead at the moment.
Their polling is awful. That's one of the things. The number of polling places that were off by 10 points, 12 points in the 2016 and 2020 election.
Yeah,
you can. How to lie with statistics. If you poll incorrectly, you can come up with, you can call the one, blue-haired librarian in a red town,
yeah,
and think that you're.
But there's a strategy behind that, right?
Absolutely. So my understanding is it's mostly a demoralization strategy. That back in 2018, the polling numbers were so off that they wanted to say, well, there's no point. I'm in Ohio. There's no point in voting Trump because he's going to lose anyway. I might as well stay home. So when you look at the differentials between the polling of the New York Times, CNN in 2016, the actual results, they were way off.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they haven't really changed their game. There are some pollsters who have done a good job. And from what I understand, that electoral map is not the current status of the situation.
Well, one thing I will say about CNN, they do have a good. I do like this website, and it is interactive. You can change things around. You can build your own. But this is the 2016 results. So this is when Trump won.
Yep.
Obviously, Harris wasn't running. It was Hillary Clinton back then. You can see a lot of red there, and then 2020, some of those states flipped, and that's why Trump lost. So there's a lot in play this time around. There's a lot of yellow there, which is undecided.
Yes, some of those are not close.
Yeah.
You want to flip a few of these that I understand. So if you look at Robert Barnes and the guy who runs the polling for the People's Pundit, he does a very good job polling. Georgia's not close.
Okay, so that's Georgia there.
Yeah.
So we'll flip that red.
In that case, the Republican governor is not a Trump fan, and neither is. It's interesting.
They've even got Florida like marginal.
Way red.
Yeah.
Way red. North Carolina is red.
Where's North Carolina?
This one, that one. Yep. And Arizona is not looking close either.
Arizona here. Yeah. So we'll flip that red.
Yep.
So that gets him to 262. Yeah. He needs 270 to win.
Yeah, and from what I understand, Nevada actually is not that close either.
Okay.
But the real key, they call it WMIPA, right? Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. That's where the battle will be lost or won.
So I've heard that if Trump wins Pennsylvania, it's all over for the
Pretty
Democrats.
Much. Yeah, that's right.
So Trump has more paths to victory.
Yeah, that's generally true. I mean, there are a couple of possibilities of states Trump could swing. Everything on the left coast is there's no practical hope. There's some talk about New Hampshire, Maine, and small chance for Virginia, but mostly and Minnesota. But those three states, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. That's the key. And I think Harris would have to win all of them. And the polling isn't looking good for Harris in Pennsylvania. So that's, in my best estimate, the election's beyond the rigging margin. It would have to be a hard rig, not a few stuffed ballot boxes or something like that this time.
So that's your analysis, but what's your gut saying?
So that's, in my view, I see that this gets a little bit trickier. There is a lot of people who have spent the last 4 to 8 years doing things that are really illegal. And because they have the cover of the Justice Department, there's no consequences. You look at Hunter Biden and the book from Miranda Devine, The Laptop from Hell. In his laptops, which was denied, it was held by the FBI for a year before they denied its existence, and it was only because the guy who had the laptop kept a cloned copy and gave it to some people in the Republican Senate. So you had what I think it was like 40 intelligence officials say denied the existence of the Hunter Biden laptop. So The FBI held it. The CIA officials denied it. Brennan, Clapper, all these other people. And there were no consequences.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of minor charges that they charged Hunter with. So, it goes well beyond that. The grift in Ukraine, all the disappearing money, the January 6th committee and their deletion of records. There's lots of things that you could go into. Now, the big problem here is if you are in an important position and you've committed crimes, you have every incentive in the world not to make sure that the Justice Department doesn't change hands, because you've got political cover at this point. That they've tried to get rid of Trump through lawfare, upgrading misdemeanors to felonies. I don't know how many felony indictments they're up to, and none of it's worked because it was all bullshit. But the things on the other side haven't been investigated, and I'm worried that the people who would not like to be investigated have every incentive to do whatever they can.
My gut feeling is, I think they're definitely going to try something, and I'm worried about that. I am really worried about that, but I can't see Kamala getting elected and being president.
I can't either. If the election is too big to rig, then they'll have to, if they want to pull a card out, it's going to be something that's terribly obvious. The problem with terribly obvious is it's not going to be terribly accepted. And so then the question is, what happens next?
Yeah.
Now I'd like to think that, in their evil card deck, there's not a lot of cards to play, and they're like, it's kind of like that end of the game of Uno, and you have no Uno reverses or anything like that.
Yeah.
And you're just sort of at the end of your rope. That's where I hope things are at.
Yeah.
We have the election, and they don't pull down the power grid in Pennsylvania or corrupt the Dominion voting machines, and there should be paper ballots, voter ID. Everything should be transparent, auditable,
Yep.
and clear. And that's not the way things are going.
What about beyond the election? If Kamala was to become president, what can you expect from a Kamala presidency?
Personally, in my view, Kamala, like Biden, is not the person in charge, never has been, never will be. There's the idea that someone who can't remember what he has for breakfast is in charge is ridiculous, particularly when...
Do you think some Democrats find some comfort in that?
Well, the people who are actually pulling the strings have comfort in that. If you're in charge of a large organization, especially if you're doing some nefarious things, you don't want to be the front man.
And can I keep getting these like lightning bolts of questions that I didn't expect to ask you, but prior to Trump, did you identify as a Republican?
I've changed. I was a swing voter. So like a lot of people, when I was young, I leaned more left.
Yep.
I learned a bit about economics and, balanced budgets, and I went to the right a bit. And then there was the war in Iraq, and I went back left a bit because George W. Bush, initially, that was so badly at the time. I thought
he was a horrible, horrible president.
Yeah. I agree. And at the time I thought that they did the best they could. Now I don't believe that at all. I think just like the Ukraine war, the benefit of the war in Iraq was some generals in Northern Virginia got to retile their bathrooms while, the rest of swim in blood.
Yeah. 1 million Iraqis.
Yeah. And a number of, thousands of Americans. And was it 10 years, $1 trillion. And all I got is this lousy t-shirt.
Yeah.
So this is one of the strange things. You've had all the neocons, war hawks have all piled into the Democratic Party. The people against free speech all piled into the Democratic Party. And also the COVID authoritarians and the people who don't want Robert Kennedy Jr. to look into the health effects of pesticides and the vaccine schedule in pharma. I did send you just one email just a second ago from my Gmail account.
Oh, okay.
And because it's one of the amazing thing is who's piling on what side. And it's just from my point of view, as long as they don't win, you have the neocons all piling into the Democrat side. So this is Liz Cheney.
Hold on, I don't know if I'll be able to bring this up on the
no worries.
screen.
AKA Miss Piggy.
Let's try that there.
So you have the neocons, the COVID authoritarians, the censorship mob, all piling into one side of the aisle. And it's as long as they don't win, that's a great deal from my point of view, because what you've had for decades is the uniparty. Like between Romney and Obama, I don't think it mattered that much. They were both fundamentally, cut from the same deep state. Oh, even better, you had John Kerry versus George W. Bush.
Yeah,
both bonesmen. Both Skull and Bones members from Yale, right? One talking left, one talking right.
Yeah.
And did it matter really to the American public in the end who was going to win? It was going to be one form of authoritarianism or the other.
Well, before we get to the other side,
in my opinion,
let's talk about Kamala and whether she's up to the job. This is some clips that have happened in the last week or two. This is her speaking at a rally where they promised Beyonce would perform. So you can hear a lot of cheering, but you can hear a lot of booing. Fancy having a rally and you get booed at your own rally.
Yeah. I think so. Beyonce came in. They kind of, it was a bait and switch. A lot of people expected her to sing, and she said like 5 words. And
she
then
was there for 5 minutes, and then
Kamala got booed, and then they brought on Willie Nelson. Yeah, that's what I heard. That's what I think I recall. So imagine, that's a good bait and switch there. Wah, 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 wah.
All right, so this is another one. This is just cringeworthy. You can hear it for yourself.
Okay, now I want each of you to shout your own name. Do that. Because it's about all of us. It's about all of us. And listen.
Fail.
It's pretty terrible, right?
Yeah. Everyone's a little, it's like when the computer or an Apple does this circling line, like, huh? What?
Yeah.
What?
Well, I guess in defense, like, just because she can't command an audience like Trump can, does that mean that she'll run the country any better or any worse?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I didn't think she was corrupt to the core, I find that forgivable. It's about you. It's not just about me. Okay, I mean, I get what you were trying to go for, and on my list of things that I worry about with Kamala, not commanding an audience is on the very, very bottom.
Yeah, okay. This is another cringe-worthy one, but this is funny because Trump's involved. So this is, I guess, Kamala being welcomed to a stage somewhere.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my God. Is she crazy?
Thank you all. Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Oh, too many thank yous. Not plenty. There must be 35.
Traveling from India to California with an unshakable dream.
And then it goes on to show him having a whole bunch of tweets and truths and all that sort of stuff. But
yeah. Well, I mean, it is very strange. I mean, from a style of communication, Trump's not my favorite. That's just everyone likes sort of a bit of a style. I do have to admit he's got a sense of humor, and I also have to admit that he's definitely a fighter.
Yes.
I mean, everything that has been kicked at him. 3 impeachments, all these fake stories. Never did finish the Find People hoax.
Oh, go on.
Which was basically so what he was saying that at the rally, because there was a bunch of there was first the protest for people that wanted to save the statue. Right.
Yeah.
And then there was the neo-Nazis.
Yes.
And then there was Black Lives Matter or Antifa. and there was a big fight between the neo-Nazis and Antifa, and he said there were some good people about at the rally. I'm not talking about the white nationalists who should be condemned, absolutely, but there were some good people on both sides, and they clip out the good people on both sides, and they painted. So
he said there's fine people
on both sides. Yeah. But what he said, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis who should be condemned totally, right? Yeah. That's the very next thing he says. So they clip that off, and then they say, oh, he called neo-Nazis or white supremacists fine people.
It's the same thing with the bloodbath.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so it's
going to be a bloodbath, and he was talking about the auto industry.
They keep on running the same thing. Like, show me the clip before, show me the clip after, and then I'll believe what you said. Otherwise, it's probably the exact opposite.
On the flip side, Kamala is talking about when she worked at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And then Trump trolled her, which people are finding that they found that fantastic. But then the Kamala campaign came out and showed this photo of her when she worked at McDonald's.
I worked in McDonald's. I was a student when I was working at McDonald's.
The Harris campaign has been exposed for photoshopping Kamala Harris's face on a McDonald's worker from the 80s. Originally posted on Facebook to debunk the Trump claim that Kamala never worked at McDonald's, this photo has been fact-checked and the original image has been found via ex-fact-checkers. The original image is from 1983, this teenager's first day at a McDonald's job. Who was the one that came forward when the photo was altered and said, wait, that's literally me. The photo seen side to side is obviously photoshopped and was likely used by AI to digitally enhance it, without even changing the skin tones or any other expressions. The Harris campaign did post this photo, though it was only up for 4.5 minutes on X. The Kamala HQ posted it. And after the fact check came on, they quickly took this down to pretty much...
I just wonder, like...
The most inauthentic candidate I've ever seen, which is saying something.
Yeah. I mean, well, she would have had to work somewhere, wouldn't she?
Oh, wait, let's not go there.
Okay. Well, let's move on. So we've talked about what a Kamala presidency might look like and the type of candidate that she is.
I mean, she was DA for a while, but how she got that job, what she did before that, the person who introduced her to the world as a famous person was P. Diddy. You've seen that.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, you can pull that up.
Yeah.
Kamala. He introduced Kamala to the world.
Oh, all right. What? I guess the big question is, what do we stand to gain from a Trump presidency?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, it's very geopolitical in part. So you're saying in Australia,
just
or
on a world scale.
On a world scale.
And I'm conscious of the fact that I'm asking that question from Australia when it should only affect America, but it doesn't.
Oh, it definitely doesn't. I mean, World War III wouldn't just affect the U.S. So in the last bunch of months, we came very close to crossing some very serious red lines in Russia, just like during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Have you ever heard of the one guy who saved the world during the Cuban Missile Crisis?
I think I have.
So it was a submarine vice commander, and you need 3 people to pull the nuclear trigger. And the captain said no. The captain said yes. The political officer said yes, and he declined. And that would have ended. There weren't enough nuclear missiles to end the world at that time, but it would have wiped out chunks. And so,
I was watching a clip the other day of the B-2 stealth bombers can carry 19 nuclear weapons.
Yeah,
that's a lot of.
And so when the Soviet Union pushed into 90 miles from a flight from Washington D.C., the U.S. generals tried 3 times to invade Cuba. There was the Bay of Pigs, there was the Cuban Missile Crisis, and Operation Northwoods, all of which were declined by Kennedy. So that would have, when we have pushed NATO into Ukraine, you can argue one way or the other whether what Putin should have done at that point. But what he did was actually not materially different than what the U.S. Joint Chiefs wanted to do in the 1960s. If you push that far into a nuclear power's backyard, and the thing is, so we've come really close to we have NATO equipment in Russia. in Kursk. There's NATO equipment, and think about that. If there was some rebellion, they were, Mexico was pushing into California with Russian equipment. How well do you think that would go?
Yeah.
So and they were asking for long-range missile strikes into Russia. Basically, it's like, okay, we're going to give the Ukrainians the missile. We're going to give them all the target guidance they need, which they know the Ukrainians can't do, and all they've got to do is hit the button, and missiles will strike into Russia. And Putin said, "You're not fooling anyone. If you do that, you are, I don't care whether you have someone in Ukraine hitting the button. It's your active guidance systems and your missiles coming into Russia. Then we're at war with NATO."
It's pretty scary that there's talk of North Koreans fighting in that conflict. There's Australian mercenaries. There's some American soldiers that apparently the Russians captured recently.
Yep.
I mean, World War II was a very, very slow build in the beginning.
Yep.
A lot of people are saying we're already in World War III.
In my view, you mind if I cut in?
Yep.
There, it's interesting. Ukraine is one of those things where, in the very first part of it, they said Russia's already lost, Ukraine's already won, Russia's running out of ammo, and then you fast forward a year and a half, and it's no, actually Ukraine's running out of ammo, and Russia is actually building more ammo than ever. So this Schrodinger's cat, like who's telling you propaganda and who's not? And it's been clear, like the ghost of Kiev, the ammo crisis, who's losing. It's I think Ukraine's done. Like that basically anyone who isn't CNN or making money off the military industrial complex or grifting off of that knows that it's over. The lines are collapsing at a fast rate. The Kursk incursion is going terribly. It's been a war of attrition, and Ukraine is basically run out of fighting men. They're just trying to limp it along through the election before they kind of close the door.
Why are we seeing more footage come out of there?
There's, again, commanding the narrative. That's what it's all about. The narrative has to be, this is not a catastrophe. We haven't spent $300 billion to Ukraine for nothing. We have an election coming up next week. It's totally worth it.
And hundreds of thousands of people have died.
Oh yeah, like 500,000 Ukrainians, and who knows how many Russians. Depends on whose propaganda you listen to.
Yeah, well, I guess that's what a lot of people are banking on, that Trump can come in and stop these conflicts, whether it be the Russia, Ukraine.
That's the easier one to stop.
Israel and Gaza.
That's the harder one to stop.
Yeah, but he thinks he can clean it up pretty quick.
Well, I mean, frankly, one way or the other, he always has a high, high amount of bluster. Whether he can or can't, I don't know. But in a lot of ways, in sales, you do kind of try to say, this is the best car. Someone's coming in an hour to see it. If you don't pick it up now, it's going to be gone. I can't believe I'm selling it. You're taking the shirt off my back. I mean, that's the mode he comes from.
Yeah.
Do I think he can stop the Ukraine war in a heartbeat? Yeah, I do. Just stop sending unnecessary billions to Zelensky, and then he will realize, oh, well, I guess the gravy train's over. I got to sue for peace. And the sooner you do that, the less Ukrainians die. But in the Middle East, it's really up to Netanyahu more than anyone else, how many people, how big that goes.
What about the economy? Can Trump come in and address the economy that the US is dealing with at the moment?
That's really complicated because there are so many. My sense of things is that there's a lot being held up by hot air and printed money. And what did Thatcher say a long time ago? The socialism ends because you run out of other people's money.
Yes.
And at this point we have a printing press that keeps a lot of things going that shouldn't be kept going, but they are.
Dillimaz says there's plenty of footage. You just have to join the right apps. I'm not even sure I want to see the footage. I saw some footage. Someone sent some drone footage where there were, I don't know. I think there were
Russians want that in my brain either.
Yeah.
Like there are certain things that it's like, that you don't want to
see people blown up.
Yeah. And it's not to say, if it would change what you do, it's like, maybe then watch it if you think it moves your thinking in the right direction. But I don't need it.
Back to the economy.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that are being held up by printed money, and I think Trump is going to have a tough time on his hands. Anyone is going to have a tough time on their hands in the next bunch of years. One of the main things we've done with the war in Ukraine is we've, in my view, ended the status of the U.S. dollar as a reserve asset, and I don't think he can bring it back. And one of the main reasons for that is when they kicked Russia off of the SWIFT system and they seized Russia's reserves, they basically let everyone who's not in the collective West know that the West isn't a safe place to keep money. The Saudis and the Chinese are trying to get their, out of U.S. bonds into something else. They've created the BRICS system because they said, well, we need a reserve asset, and we can't count on, anytime we're going to get someone in the West mad at us, they're going to cut us out of the financial system and seize our reserves. So we're going to have to create something else. And that does untold damage to the economies in the Western world. It's one of those things. Never in the past have we threatened those financial systems as global financial systems that everyone could use. It's like whatever political differences we have, it's not going to, you can still have your reserves underground in Manhattan in those gold vaults. That's untouchable regardless of whatever disagreements we have. And we've broken that, and we've broken that trust, and we're not getting it back.
The first Trump presidency, when he came in, he started appointing his cabinet.
Yep.
And even he has said that he made a lot of mistakes and took the wrong advice.
Yes, he did.
Seems like this time around, he knows who he wants, to the point where Jordan Peterson came out recently and made a whole YouTube thing about the X-Men. And this is a bit of a homage to that, saying, basically going through each one of those people: Elon, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, Vivek Ramaswamy. Who else is there? There was someone else as well. Oh yeah, JD Vance. Also Tucker Carlson's floating around. I don't know if you have a position on the cabinet, but all these people are jumping on the Trump train.
Yeah,
that seems more exciting to me than anything else. The fact that if you were to get another Trump presidency, you would get these people coming along and hopefully reforming different areas.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the first presidency was an exercise in the uniparty, basically, and they made it politically impossible for most people to join his campaign, some of whom it did. Like Peter Navarro was, I think, one of his chief economic advisors or something like that. He just got out of prison a few months ago. So they made it impossible for any, if you were a deep state controlled CIA director, FBI director, come on in. Yeah. And they let the enemy inside, the uniparty enemy inside the gate. All the people who wanted, from my point of view, that wanted the wars, that wanted to cover for the deep state. This time around, that seems less likely to happen. Yeah. Even though I think Trump still flirts with a couple of people he shouldn't. That cast of characters, for the most part, I think have proved that they are not owned.
And they're campaigning hard for him as well.
They are. I mean, I have no reason to not trust that Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. are not secretly sold out. I don't see that at all.
Dilly Maz says the Unity Coalition has a lot of potential. If he actually ends up listening to their advice, is another thing altogether. So I think he will.
I think he will, at least to a fair degree. The promises he's made explicitly to RFK Jr., I think he'll carry through. He still, unfortunately, is not willing to hear just how dangerous his warp speed was.
Yeah.
But he understands about the vaccine schedule, I think, and he also understands about the unhealthy food. Even though the McDonald's troll, I hope he doesn't take that one to heart. I kind of like McDonald's. I don't think he eats well, but no, I do think that that he will expose to whatever degree the blob is going to fight back, but I think would have a chance at least to take the first few layers off the onion.
Lamarth. I don't know how people come up with these names on Rumble, but they're quite.
I know who that is.
You know? Oh, okay. Wow. I never know. RFK cleaning up the sickness industry is the fastest way to repairing the economy.
Yeah.
Disability and sickness subtracts while hospital need ever more administration to administer ever more pills.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you know, in your personal life, if you don't have health, you don't have productivity, you don't have anything. And just like RFK Jr. has said, don't you want healthy children? Don't make America healthy again. We have disabled so many people through bad food, vegetable oils, pesticides, the sick care industry. He's absolutely right that productivity in the long term, it'll take a long time to undo the damage that we've done, but it's the way forward.
Now let's talk about this Trump rally at Madison Square Garden. Now there's a lot of outtakes from that. The first thing is obviously we just watched the Tim Waltz clip of him linking the rally to the Nazi rally that they had there in the 1930s. People are so clever with their memes. This is one of Trump and Hitler having a meal. It says, this is from Matt Walsh on X. This is deeply troubling. Adolf Hitler was known to sit at the table and eat dinner. Donald Trump has also been documented sitting at tables and eating dinner.
That's about.
Is this just a coincidence, or is it just another Nazi MAGA dog whistle? I mean, people are so.
It's really just about that bad.
Yeah,
it's really just about that ridiculous.
Here's another one that, I mean, you have to laugh at this stuff. Who else drinks water? Hitler.
That's right.
Got
exactly.
photo of them two drinking.
Well,
water.
I don't know if you remember a long time ago. Back in the 2016, 18 era, people were being pulled up for hand signals that reminded them of something.
Yeah,
like people waving hi, and if they're on the wrong side, it's like, oh, that's triggering because it's that's like a Heil sign.
Yeah.
And then they have pictures of Obama and Clinton. I'm actually not going to do it because if someone will clip it.
Yeah,
and then
I will.
Like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then that'll follow me for the rest of my life. Or there was a guy who was flicking a booger out the window, and he did that. And of course, because some troll called that okay sign, that when you're in scuba diving, okay, yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that actually is a dog whistle. And then people actually took it seriously, and then that became a symbol of white supremacy.
I thought it was meant to represent white power. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. So he was flicking a booger out the window, and that got clipped in a snapshot moment, and that trucker got fired.
Let's talk about another moment. This was from the Trump rally. This one's a little bit harder to defend than anything. This is Tony Hinchcliffe making a joke about Puerto Rico.
Going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Again, normally I don't.
Okay, so you didn't even get a good response from the rally, but they're trying to hammer this point. I mean, he's a comedian. He made a bad joke.
Right. That's right. It was a bad joke. He made a bad joke. He didn't get a welcome response from the audience. And I think people talked about what he said in the previous day or two on a comedy show, and it was way worse than that.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're a comedian,
go watch Kill Tony, his podcast series. I mean,
you're always toying with the edge. When you're a comedian.
But is it suitable to have a comedian like him at a Trump rally? Because I grew up on Rodney Roode. I don't know if you know Rodney Roode being an American, but he's just and Kevin Bloody Wilson as well, two Australian comedians that would say that would say at the start of their shows, if you're easily offended, doesn't matter who you are, get out because we're going to attack everyone right now.
Yeah.
But as much as I love Rodney Roode and as much as I love Kevin,
you wouldn't put him as a front man on your campaign.
Well, yes, exactly.
Opening for Steve Tripp, Rodney Roode.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and he probably make more jokes about me than anyone else.
Right.
Do you think it was an error of judgment?
I mean, mean, he's known for being entertaining. He's known for kind of, blurring those lines a little bit. And personally, I mean, this gets to people's sense of priorities, like not dying in a nuclear war, not having my kids poisoned, mean tweets and bad jokes. Like people's sense of proportion is absurd. So that's basically what I think about it.
There were some awesome moments from the rally, in my opinion. Anytime you have Hulk Hogan up on the stage, it's good. So this is Hogan.
You know something, Trump maniacs?
I love that voice.
I don't see no stinking Nazis in here.
What a theater.
I don't see no stinking domestic terrorists in here. The only thing I see in here are a bunch of hard-working men and women that are real Americans, brother.
Oh, that's where South Park got that voice from. Heather Swanson. I'm not here to talk.
No, that wasn't Hogan. That wasn't.
It just seems like.
Yeah, there was another guy called Randy Savage.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, that's what that was all about.
The wrestler voice. I got to get a good wrestler voice.
Yeah, well, I can do it, but I won't do it now. Embarrass myself. So I mean, anytime you have Hogan up on the stage, and it gets a lot of publicity as well. And believe it or not, there are a lot of wrestling fans out there. Now, Hogan is a little bit on the nose because he's made some racist comments over the years. So I'm surprised the Democrats are not jumping on that. But I mean,
again, priorities. I mean, I just, this whole idea of finding something particularly out of context or from way in the past to take offense about. I mean, just stop. You're done.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's just the cast of characters that are getting behind Trump now. Whereas, first time around 2016,
Mike Tyson, 50 Cent.
Yeah. Did Mike Tyson?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
At the very least,
I'd love to see him up on stage at a rally.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, he said, the Trumps have always been good to my family, shown, love to my family, this and that, So at the very least, it was like that. Did he give an explicit endorsement? I'd have to check, but
yes,
yeah, I don't want to be accused of misinformation.
Do you wish that you were at Madison Square Garden for this rally?
Oh boy. I'm not generally a fan of that scene. I'm more comfortable in nature, but on the other hand, sometimes, there's an unforgettable spectacle that you'll never forget. Like, do I wish I was at the Berlin Wall in, 1989 or around there singing, listening to David Hasselhoff sing "I'm Singing for Freedom"? Yeah, because it's just a moment in history that you'll always remember, and I think right now we're living in one of those times.
Oh, we definitely are. I guess that's the whole point of this podcast, is to bring out that this is a moment of history. Is the election going to be a massive moment? Is it going to be a turning point? Is it just going to be something that humanity muddles its way through like we normally do?
Yeah, I think that we're in the Great Awakening. I think that in my personal view, this is a process by which a lot of us lose our disillusionments, lose our illusions, about the FBI being a law enforcement agency, about the healthcare industry not being under the thumb of big pharma and major lobbyist money,
or the Federal Reserve being a government department.
Yeah, and we could go on for a while. Depends on how dangerous you want to get on.
Yeah.
From my view, I made a list of all the major conflicts we've been in the last 20 years. Billions of dollars and all. We got these lousy T-shirts. Like the invasion of Iraq. $10 trillion. Did all these deaths? Do we make it? Is it any safer? Is it any more freedom? No. Ukraine, Libya, Afghanistan. And all the equipment we just left there. Oh, that's all right. We'll just leave the equipment there because we got to buy it again. Because
what was it?
Cha-ching,
was it General Milley that Trump was saying?
Yep. Just leave it there.
It would be cheaper to leave it there.
Cheaper to leave it there, right? Well, because
Trump was saying it's cheaper to leave it there than fly a jet out?
That's right, and not put it in the hands in the of the Taliban, where it can be sold around world markets, so that we're going to have to spend the money to build the things to blow those up. From Millie's point, again, these frickin' people, these neocons who've just complete shills for the military industrial complex, and all of them move on to well-paying jobs right after they get out of public service.
I guess to be
and again, I don't, there are rank and file military members, as you know, my brother was one of them, willing to sacrifice, or risk their lives in conflict zones to do what needs to be done. But I have no faith in the upper echelons of any. We really, all the institutions that I've lost faith in, and that's sort of part of the Great Awakening. Realizing that it's really got to come back to the people, and we need to reform and come back to our roots, our constitutional roots, our natural foods, our community ties. That's I think, in the biggest picture, that's what this is about.
You spoke of the Great Awakening.
Yeah.
Now, if we look at this rally and the cast of characters up on that stage willing to endorse Trump, I doubt he would have been able to do that in 2016.
I agree.
He didn't do it in 2016, nor did he do it in 2020. We saw him get, I think, about 80 million votes in the 2020 election. Do you think he'll increase that this time around?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep.
Unless the Dominion voting booths go glitch. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so you want
Dilly Maz says, if you want to know who our next enemy is, look at who we're funding right now. Well, follow the money is another one of those sayings, I suppose.
Yeah.
So to finish up on this rally, the Hinchcliffe thing, we were talking about Puerto Rico being a floating island of garbage. Now, from the Democrats' point of view, that's something that they can hammer on. It's a point that they can really go after.
They're trying to.
Well, Biden tried to, and he completely fumbled the ball there.
Right.
I mean,
and then the master of jiu-jitsu comes up after that.
Scores his own goal. This is Joe Biden talking about that.
Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
How damaging is this? I guess the good question is this damaging to the Democrat campaign?
One of the things that Hillary was pegged for was the deplorables comment. So there's basically Hillary Clinton called Trump supporters basket of deplorables.
Yeah, I think I've got that.
And if you want to motivate,
you could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Yep.
And the crowd laughed.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that a lot of the supporters on the Democrat side believe that. They because they live in the CNN MSNBC matrix, they really think that there's a chance that Hitler's. And this is actually something I really worry about.
But he was the president for 4 years already.
Rationally, I won't argue with you. But from their point of view, if you keep on hearing every day that Hitler's coming to town, yeah, I mean, what do you say to that? I mean, they actually believe it. And there are videos you'll find on Twitter of people, screaming at people's front doors for having a Trump sign say, "You're literally endorsing Hitler." There's going to be a major mental health.
Do you think they're just completely void of any historical understanding?
You see, I guess this is it's really hard to wrap your head around other people's point of views. And I can't understand it. I mean, I have to, if I went back, to a time, you have some people like Naomi Wolf who voted Democrat her whole life, and now she endorsed Trump, right? Yeah. She's a feminist, New York, Brooklynite, person who woke up during the COVID crisis. And when she talked about the damage that the injections did to women's fertility, because she always cared about she's a feminist and a Democrat feminist. The only CNN wouldn't have her on. The only person who had her on was Steve Bannon. So here's Naomi Wolf on air with Steve Bannon, and she's thinking, how the hell did I get here? Right.
Yeah.
And so
Do you think we'll be on a Greens podcast one day and go, how do we get here?
Unlikely. Unlikely.
Bring it on, I say.
Yeah.
Or Labor. I think the Labor people are more reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, because when you're having this disillusionment that I've had, and you have some old friends that become acquaintances because you can't talk about anything real, and you want to try to save them from certain things that they're putting into their mouths or their bodies, and they won't listen to you. And it's upsetting. Families have split up, because some people see and some people don't. It makes me think of Cypher from The Matrix, where he's sitting there with the agents and it's like, why didn't I take the blue pill? If Morpheus offered me that red pill now, I'd tell him to shove it right up his ass, because the Matrix, being outside of the Matrix is not comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Now, Trump is the master of trolling. Now, the first thing that he did after this Biden comment was to get his own dump truck. And
from reporters inside a truck. Let's go ahead and listen in.
I don't think they'll have to be used. I think we're going to have a big victory. And I think 250 million people in this country are going to be very happy because we're going to bring the country back. We're a nation in decline, very, very serious decline. And we're going to bring our country back.
Did you know that Elon Musk was supposed
what do you think when you see stuff like this?
Master jiu-jitsu. He understands media. It is brilliant. I mean, does it really matter to me? No, it doesn't.
Well, is it going to win votes?
I think so. There's winning votes and exciting the base, and getting people to turn out, and something like that does create impetus for someone in Wisconsin to get off the couch, trudge through the snow, and wait in line.
Yeah,
because that's it does create
this to see
that's funny
to see Trump up on stage dancing like this in his high vis
vest. Yeah.
Do you think I work in construction. I wear this type of stuff. Is it showing that he's a man of the people?
I guess it is a way of connecting. It's a way of connecting, and that's one of the things he's. If you look at the different demographics, and that's something I don't have off the top of my head. I still defer to Robert Barnes and the People's Pundit. They have a show called "What Are the Odds?" I think it's called, and they break down all the historical inroads Trump has made to Black men. To the Hispanic vote is about 50-50 for the first time. Like there are certain times in American history where demographics have shifted in a fairly permanent way. And so never has a Republican for many decades won the percentage of Black votes that Trump is pulling at now, not the Hispanic vote. He's lost a lot of college educated white women, but he's more than making up for it, with some of these other demographics.
Why has he lost women?
Well, one of the
because there's a lot of women out there. Because hang on, what I might do is I just realized I didn't put the link to StreamYard in the chat. If anyone wants to call in, and this is probably what I get distracted talking to these wonderful people that I have on the show.
That's very kind.
But I would like to also hear from the audience because this is a moment in history. It's hard to deny that this is a moment in history.
It really is.
So the link is there right now. It's a StreamYard link. Click the link and follow the prompts, and you'll be able to call in. You can use your phone, you can use your laptop, you can use whatever device you want to use. We would love to hear from you, even if you just want to come on here and let us know who you think will win. Please call in. We'll stick around for another maybe 10 or 20 minutes or so just to see if anyone does call in. But please do so. What were you saying before I cut you off?
I think we were talking about it is a historical.
Okay,
demographics.
So I hear here in Australia, the Liberal Party is saying we need to have more women, and I've met some people that are Liberal voters particularly older women who don't feel that at all. They're like, no, I don't necessarily. I'm not necessarily going to vote for a woman just because I'm a woman. I want to vote for a man sometimes if they're the most capable for the job. Why is it that Trump is losing college,
particularly college-educated white women, from what I understand, and he's gaining a significant percentage of black women, not the majority. And
so he's losing white women but gaining black women.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think so. This is one of those things. It's hard to speak on behalf of almost impossible other demographics. Maybe we'll get someone to call in who's a college-educated white woman from the U.S. or a black woman from the U.S. Please call.
We'll put it out there to the universe.
That's right, exactly. Even though it's like 1 a.m, if you're watching the candidates, give us a ring. What's the reason? I think. Well, actually, here's a fun little rabbit hole. You realize that Candace Owens has done a great job debunking the idea that Kamala is at all African American.
Yes.
Right. And so, let's say you have someone, you have these forms of, Tim Walz is stolen valor. He said, he has his rifle there, and it turned out he when his unit deployed, he didn't, right? You have Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, who was the first indigenous Native American, to Harvard. It's like, oh, you were so proud to have, our Harvard Native American, and it turned out she was as Native American as a Saltine.
Yeah. So they're saying Kamala was half Indian, half Jamaican.
But her Jamaican side was Irish slaver.
Oh, okay.
From what I understand.
Okay, but even if it was black Jamaican, that's still not African.
Well, I mean, there is. It would still be considered. So that there are the Caribbean African Americans. Have some cultural distinctions between the American African Americans.
Okay,
but they still had Africa as their origin.
From the Caribbean.
Yeah. There were slaves that were brought into the Caribbean, slaves that were brought into the United States, slaves that came into South America.
Okay.
And there are cultural distinctions between the two. And even, like that, it's one of those things that a lot of times we talk about ethnic groups as monoliths, and they're not remotely. You can have, I remember talking to someone delivering, actually he was an Uber driver, and he was a recent immigrant from Africa, talking about how he didn't understand the African Americans at all. So that we talk about people, kind of as skin color monoliths, but they're not.
Dilly Maz is answering the question as to why Trump is losing the white college educated women.
Sure.
Hang on. Oh, there's a couple. Yeah, this one here. It's abortion. That's the only policy they have. That and name calling. So how big is this abortion, Roe v. Wade?
Among people who support Kamala, it's a big deal. From what my personal anecdotes of people that I've talked to, if you are on that side of the aisle, that is no small matter.
You've sent through a couple of clips.
Yeah. So there's one that's when I was thinking about Liz Cheney and Miss Piggy and all the neocons going over to the neocon side, there's an old neocon homage by the same people who did South Park, and it's called Team America World Police.
I'm gonna get kicked off the air.
You will actually definitely lose your monetization from YouTube.
We don't get it anyway.
Okay, well in that case, go for it. Basically makes fun of neoconservative.
America, fuck yeah! Coming again to save the motherfucking day, yeah! America, fuck yeah! Freedom is the only way down. Terrorists, your game is through, 'cause now you have to answer to America, fuck yeah! So lick my blood and suck my
All right, let's cut that up. See, I have trust in Paul, and
You know that was a bad idea.
That was a bad idea.
And we could always end with my favorite dancing tune.
Hang on, let's jump to that because you love this for
I do.
some particular reason.
Especially,
but, yeah. Okay.
This is how
it's been
in Springfield.
Like it's been an interesting campaign. We've seen a lot, haven't we?
It has. And in some cases, too much. Kind of like we just saw.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs.
That just makes me happy. Thank you.
I
appreciate it.
My political career is over. Okay, so the Kahuna says great movie. Yes, I love the Kahuna. I just like saying the Kahuna. Okay, so
I gotta have some fun in these crazy times.
What happens? What are you expecting?
Best guess, that the election will turn out to be too big to rig. We'll see if they manage to pull something. If I had to, all right, best guess, they'll try to pull the plug on a bunch of the Dominion voting machines. I don't think it'll get them over the line. Deep State then has 2 months to pull whatever they're going to pull before the change of power in January. I have no idea what's in their evil deck of cards. And, because they have run, some simulations says, all right, well, what happens if we just don't give up the keys? But the thing is that it, then every, the states that are disenfranchised can kind of, well, Alex Jones talks about how they're going to try to provoke a reaction that will allow them to implement martial law. I have no idea if he's right or wrong or whatever else.
He says the most dangerous period is between
the election and inauguration day. Yeah. And maybe he's right. Maybe he's wrong, Alex Jones was not someone I would have quoted 4 years ago. I'll tell you that much. But then again, in retrospect, you see, he actually talked about 9/11 before it happened. All these things I'm seeing only in retrospect that was just hidden before my eyes. As I thought that the New York Times had all the news that was fit to print. And that's like, why didn't I take the blue pill?
Just imagine if they had Alex Jones at the Trump rally.
I want to see him as press secretary. I think that would be hysterical.
I think he just needs a good sleep. Okay, well, we're about to finish up, but Richard loves calling in at the very last minute. Here he is. How you going, Richard?
Hey.
Can you hear me?
I can.
You've got your Billboard Battalion t-shirt on. You're looking very stylish.
Yep.
What have you got to say, mate?
Thank you. I've enjoyed a little bit of the podcast.
Yeah, we're listening.
Time's ticking, Richard. Speed it up. We got to put you on 2 times speed.
I can't help
chopped up.
The whole thing with this whole narrative with this.
I have no idea what you're saying.
Sorry. I think there's too much of a lag. We're not doing.
Yeah, I think maybe you need to go inside where you have a bit of
the connection.
Yeah,
good.
Unfortunately the connection's not so great.
Yeah, we'll have to
just reposition, Richard, and we'll give it another shot maybe when you're inside.
Maybe we can pay a little bit more of American Team Police while we're waiting. No, don't do that.
No. I'm already skating on thin ice as it is. Yeah, let's give it another shot, Richard.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
No, it's
So
still
you have to
lag.
speak.
You still getting a lag?
Lag. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll have a chat. We'll have lunch or dinner. Cheers, mate. Thanks for trying.
Maybe log out and try again, Richard, or something like that. Yeah.
We can bring it on next one. I think it's a good time to wrap, but it's up to you.
Yeah, no, well, I was about to wrap up anyway. He always does that. I'm about to finish up
Sign off.
and
That's
I
right.
see him pop up. But okay, mate. Well,
thanks very much. That was good fun.
Table, yes, yes. Well, hopefully, the next few days will be good fun as well. Hopefully,
we will see.
It will be
times.
November 6th here in Australia, but November 5th in America.
Yep.
If you are listening to this in America, and we do have I think about 15% of our audience is American, believe it or not.
Oh, interesting.
So I suppose get out and vote. I mean, it's something that's hard to understand here in Australia because we are compelled to vote. We have compulsory voting here in Australia, so that's just something that you do. And I don't understand why people don't go to vote in America. They say it's a chore or whatever. Well, just get out there and do it. You know, if this is a big moment in history, then play your part. Get out there and hopefully vote for the right side. Mr. Storch, are you there? Can you hear me, Richard?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, give it a go. Just let us have it.
Lagging.
I still can't understand a word you're saying.
Yeah,
Sorry.
It's about a 3-second lag.
All right. Well, I'll give you a call after this, Richard. We'll have to let you go. Sorry about that.
Thank you for trying.
Okay, Paul. Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on.
Pleasure.
Thank you for contributing, and I'm sure we'll have a recap once we know the results.
Yes, we will.
We'll have a lot to talk about there. There's a lot to talk. I mean, we're just doing a lot of guesswork at the moment.
No doubt it will definitely be interesting.
Yes, and you know, also we want to hear from you guys next time, so we'll try and give you some warning about what we're gonna do for the election, whether we live stream live or just give it a couple of days and do it afterwards. We'll have to wait and see what we decide there. We've still got a few options, but thank you everyone for watching this time. We've had a lot of fun. There's been a lot of things to discuss. This was a crazy campaign. It was a very interesting campaign. I think the one thing that you can say about Donald Trump when he's involved in these campaigns is that they're very, very interesting.
They are.
No matter the result. So we don't want to see any violence. We don't want to see anyone get hurt.
Not.
But we do laugh at a lot of the things that come along, especially safely here in Australia, watching it all from afar. But I'm sure people in America, no matter what side you're on, you are, very anxious about what could happen. Maybe also very excited about what could happen. But hopefully, whatever does happen is beneficial for the country of America, because it is a great place, great people there, and we do want to see a strong and healthy America.
Yes.
And I think it only helps the world to see a strong America. And hopefully from Australia, we can wish you all the best. Yes.
America. And yes, thank you.
Okay. God bless, I guess is what you would say.
Yeah, that's right.
And we'll see you all next time.